Correct me if I'm wrong. In Cairo, there are certain districts and suburbs that renounce for having more Coptic population than like your Shobra, your
Absolutely.
Al Fagala,
Yes.
Ramses, those sort of areas. I remember there are
Yes.
certain areas where there are a lot of and um, Muslims live alongside them.
Yeah.
And I remember in the early '70s when I was a child there, you can see a church right next to a mosque, and the back then it didn't sound like a big problem. People like sort of weren't really worried too much about what's the difference.
Yeah. Well, it was and it wasn't, Henny.
Yeah.
Because it, you know why in most, I wouldn't say in most areas, nearly every church in Egypt within 200 meters square, there is a mosque. Do you know why this happens?
Is it to offset the effect of what a church could do?
That's what people usually think, but it has a legal reason behind it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so and it's funny because that legal reason or this piece of law that I'm gonna tell you about comes all the way from the Ottoman times. So we're talking about like nearly 300 years old piece of law that is still practiced until today. Um,
What's the
and
motivation behind the law?
so the law is any church, and that law was introduced by the Ottomans about 300 years. Any church that has a mosque within the range of, I think it was 200 or 300 meters, this church can still practice peacefully. But if it falls, it's not allowed to rebuild. If it needs renovation, that is not allowed. The churches that do not have mosques in within a certain space around them, these are the churches that you can renovate and you can rebuild if anything wrong happens to it.
Right.
So since that time, any church that was built, um, instantly you try to build a mosque within a certain area, so you make sure that they do not spread or they do not continue to grow beyond a
Yeah, so you
what's that?
basically ensure that the lifespan of that church, once it's sort of tired and old and sort of dissipates, it goes away, and then there'll be no return because you cannot renovate or rebuild. Um,
Exactly.
God, that's
Of
very
course, they
conniving.
try to challenge that law many, many times throughout the year, well, throughout the centuries. And yes, we do get permits nowadays to renew a church or to do renovations, but God, it's getting blood out of a stone to really get these licenses to just renovate a cracked wall in a church. It's
It's
While
ridiculous.
it's that easy to do it if you have a mosque, right? So
Yeah, that's incredible.
one
Well, yeah.
example.